The temperature rose. She felt her head would soon explode. She could feel her blood boiling. Her hands trembled as she sealed the edges of the door with towels, a methodical act, a final ritual. Her fingers jeweled by ink spots telling tales of the last verses she wrote last night. Ink spots, such strong even in making breakfast for children couldn't wash them away. A poet's hands once shaping words were shaping silence. This is how the world ended, not with a bang, but a breath held too long in the burning oven. This was Sylvia Plath, the one who loved to write about death, and today she was experiencing one. I talked to God, but the sky is empty. Maybe this was her last call. The scene changes. Fast forward to 1970. New York City, a cold winter night. The art world was buzzing about Warhol, about pop, about money. While a dim lit studio on East 69th Street, Mark Rothko was alone. With a razor blade in his demons, the man who changed colors into scream, the man whose paintings were called too dark by the critics, was now going through one of these screams. Even his hands, the hands of that once wrestles angels onto canvases, now betrayed him. The same hand that would change his thought into marvels betrayed him. The same blood that was visible on his canvases started to ooze until his pain finished for good. Rothko's paintings now sell for $100 million. His death sold for nothing. These aren't just two examples. Vincent van Gogh, madman, lunar, lover of light, shot himself in a field of weed. He died 2 days later. Cobain, voice of broken age, put a shotgun to his head and ended to noise forever. Heath Ledger, lost inside the Joker, overdosed his apartment too deep in the dark to return. Richard Gerstl, outcast, rejected, alone, painted his torment, then hung himself in front of it. Arshile Gorky, turned by exile, burned by grief, tied a rope in his balm and left the canvas behind. These are not just some unfortunate experiences. This is a pattern, a mysterious one, and can be explained by nothing but psychology's secrets. But before that, let's take a deeper look at some artists' lives. Vincent van Gogh's legacy is defined by masterpieces like Starry Night, but the reality behind the art was life marked by relentless suffering, battling poverty, social isolation, and intense psychological torment. Van Gogh famously cut off part of his ear during a mental breakdown and gifted to a cleaning girl at a brothel. A desperate act for a man whose genius the world would not recognize until after his death. Dutt was not just a filmmaker. He was a poet of shadows. His films like Pyasa and Kagaz Ke Phool were soaked in melancholy and disillusionment and longing. Behind the camera, he was visionary. In front of it, a tortured soul. Then came 10th, 1964. He was found lifeless in his Mumbai apartment, a fatal mixture of alcohol and sleeping pills in his system. The man who had made silence and shadow speak on screen had chosen the silence in his own voice forever. So here the question arises. Why the same people who surprises people with their songs, paintings and writings are so sick of their lives? It's finally the time to understand this. Let's begin with the concept of sublimation, the term coined by Sigmund Freud. When pain becomes unbearable or mind activates a defense mechanism to wear off the pain, it does it by converting it to socially acceptable things. You can't die, so you write, you paint and you sing. This is how sublimation works. It transforms unbearable sufferings into creativity. Sylvia wrote poems to survive. Van Gogh painted madness to delay his own collapse. Ledger acted not to escape but to feel alive. Art did not save them forever, but it bought them time. So there might be just a possibility that art is not a reason for their death, but something that helped them to live until they lived. Because maybe if they were not practicing anything of the art, they might have died earlier by their suffering. Artists experience high rates of mood disorders like bipolar disorders and major depression. Their creative gifts often come with brain wiring that amplifies both emotional highs and devastating lows, as described in the research of psychiatrist Dr. Redfield Jamison, who has written extensively on the link between bipolar disorder and artistic achievement.
And I think that one of the things that happens with a lot of artists and writers is they come into your office and they make this assumption that if they're going to be treated, then something special is going to be taken away. You know, that creating element, that creating fire.
Many suffered from existential depression, a concept introduced by Evan de Jalem. This is kind of sorrow that doesn't arise from any specific event, but rather from deep sense that life itself is meaningless. Artists often perceive the world as shallow, false, and cruel, and they ask themselves, where do I belong? What reinforces this question even more is the world's inability to recognize their work the way it deserves. So they are left with little choice but to rather fall into existential crisis or create marvels like the Metamorphosis. Yes, the famous story in which a man's turned into a bug. It was beautiful, but don't get me started on it. Let's stuck to the topic. A counter-argument from sublimation hypothesis, though, is that they also suffer from what Rollo may describe as tortured artist syndrome. The art is authentic because the pain is real, but the authenticity cost them everything. The tortured artist myth is not just romanticizing. There is a statistical weight to the stereotype. The work itself, requiring sustained vulnerability, deep introspection, and often harsh criticism, creates an environment that can foster psychological fragility. Their screams turn into marvels but not medicine. So next time you read a poem that feels so real, see a painting that disturbs your soul, or hear a song that breaks your heart from the artist in your circle, pause for a while and think what you can do for this. Because maybe the masterpiece was never the art, the masterpiece was how long they endured the storm. I'm Dr. Umar Hamid. Thank you.